Hi everyone, welcome to my review of the Nightjar Acoustic Singularity, which is a single dynamic driver which has taken HeadFi's water cooler thread by storm. And a lot of high-enders are buying this, although it's not meant to be a very high-end IM. It's roughly $1,000, so it's not cheap. However, a lot of people who love the $3,000 stuff, $4,000, $5,000 stuff are buying this, raving about this. So this is not exactly a new IM. Nightjar is working on a duality, which is supposed to be their flagship, but as of the time of this shooting of this video, this was the flagship of Nightjar. Of course, it's an affordable flagship in the sense that it's not, a multi-kilobuck IM. So what can a single dynamic driver do? And I will talk about its FR because its FR is rather interesting. And just to show you its FR, if you look at the one from headphones.com, we're of course very reliable when it comes to measurements. You'll see a massive bass shelf, and if you turn to the Nightjar website, this one doesn't look like its bass shelf is as pronounced, and this one of course is very deep sub bass, but in terms of proportion overall it does seem a little less pronounced. However, I do want to mention that, so this is from Elise Audio, which is a distributor of course. Overall it's a very sub bassy IM with superlative timbre and extremely interesting technical performance. So let me just first talk about, and I have a couple of sources here, right, which I think pair really well. I talk about these sources. Now, in terms of the marketing material, the things that the Singularity IM is, the Nightjar guys try to highlight, they try to highlight the bass and the timbre, especially the mid-range and treble timbre. And it's interesting, like if you go to the website, they talk about the timbre plus technology, and they say that they have a proprietary method of designing their drivers, which allows them to, avoid the usual metallic and bright tuning, which is required, they say, for technical performance, and they're able to avoid all that. And through a meticulously designed diaphragm, driver assembly, and internal chamber design, these bespoke solutions essentially, they say, optimizes the airflow and hence the timbre of this IM, which is believable. They also talk about the low flex technology, which they use because they think that a lot of driver flex issues come up with a lot of bass focused dynamic driver IMs, and they use the low flex technology to essentially ensure you get no driver flex, which works. And last but not the least, on their website, they talk about the cathedral technology, which is with a technology with which they have, tried to craft a large sound stage, which does work because this does have a large sound stage for the price point. Okay, guys, I heard this at CanJam Singapore 2023. There was a beeline for this. People loved it. A lot of people bought it. The HeadFi community, especially the water cooler thread where all the SummitFi guys hang out, we're raving about this. I don't have the full packaging, but it does have a very nice packaging. And I love the brand work of the Nightjar guys. Like this logoization, or this logo, is just so cute. Love it. The cable, of course, is an aesthetic match, as is the splitter and everything else to do with this IM. The splitter is the cables are a bit, not the most premium. As you can see, I'm sort of, struggling to slide down the chin splitter. But that said, the cable does work really well because I've tried other cables and this sounds really good. The splitter's back and it's not a major issue, and it's fairly ergonomic, and the IMs themselves are superbly ergonomic. They're so comfortable and so light. It's of course single dynamic driver, and they didn't go overboard with the shell work, the shell design or anything. It's not resin. It's not anything artsy. It's just very, very industrial, and it's minimal, and it works, and I like it. Okay, I do want to talk about sound. So sound-wise, guys, I think this IM has a lot of soul. And by soul, essentially, so if with a lot of IMs, what happens is if you consider the $3,000 dynamic driver, single dynamic driver from Dita Audio called the Perpetua, which I think is my benchmark for single dynamic drivers, you get a lot of richness, a lot of organicness. And that, to some extent, comes from the fact that the Perpetua, I think, sort of reduces the pinna gain, and it has a bit of energy in the lower mids and upper bass, which adds some body. But even beyond that, a lot of the body or tonal weight comes from the fact that the Dita Perpetua rather has this ability to, has that sort of driver technology and that the crossover design with which you get that sort of timbral richness. Now, these guys are very comparable to the Perpetua, I think, in terms of its tonal organicness and richness. They sound very, very beautiful, guys. Vocals in particular. This is just a vocal master. In terms of its timbre, it sounds great and it's so believable. I feel like you can make out lyrics of vocalists much better than other IMs Not because of its spinner gain, because its spinner gain is fine, it's there, but it's somewhat balanced out by the bass shelf, as you saw. I'll show you the FR again. However, I feel like you just get this very this feeling of being, close to the vocalist, not in proximity, mind you. You get a sense of just having this magnifying glass to the vocal performance and understanding vocal inflections really well. It's like a study on human vocals. And I say a study because it's deeply intoxicating. It's deeply absorbing when it comes to male vocals and female vocals. So I can't rave enough about how well it does vocals. It reminds me of the Sennheiser 600 series headphones, but on acid, because this is much better than those headphones in terms of how well they do vocals, right? So it's inflections, it's nuances, it's just a timbral richness. It's very, very stunning, guys. Now, in terms of its overall, FR, I just want to show you how this looks. So this is what it graphs like, right? So it does have a sub bass shelf. So from the graph, it doesn't look like it has a lot of mid bass, right? However, it just does punch very hard. It's got a tonal richness, which I said, and like I said, is not always explainable by mid bass energy. The FR can only, explain some part of what an IM sounds like, and perhaps the most important part, but an FR still doesn't explain everything in terms of what an IM sounds like. So despite the fact that it doesn't graph like it has a lot of mid bass, you do get a lot of dynamics, and you do get tonal weight, and you get warmth. Now, I've seen graphs where these treble peaks, they're not peaks per se, but these treble, let's say, nodal points are slightly more enhanced of the Singularity, but on this graph, it looks warmer because upper mid level of energy is just way higher than the energy in around the 10 kilohertz and all that. But what I will say, though, that although it does graph like it's warm and it sounds like it's warm, I do play around with these Asla Setna EarFit tips. I think they're called EarFit Max, and these have the quality of enhancing the treble of any IM and reducing the bass impact, which works really, really, really well with these IMs, guys, because I do perceive now an airier presentation than I think it was possible with the stock. So overall, guys, if you do tip roll and cable roll and source roll, you will be able to get a very balanced presentation out of this. I do think it's balanced to start with. Perhaps on the warmer and bassier side, the bass is fantastic. It's got great decay, speed, texture, cohesion, and because it's single dynamic driver, it's just cohesive and it's just cohesion all day, every day. And then finally, in terms of resolution, guys, it does have a lot of resolution. It's fine for a $1,000 IM. The $1,000 price point has become hyper overpopulated, especially now that Symphonium Audio has come out with some winners with the Helios and now the Crimson. I think the Crimson is a little more expensive, around $1,400. However, the fact remains that the $900 to $1,000 price point is very, very, for crowded. But this does hold its own in terms of technical prowess. First, you got its timbre, for which I think it's almost like a king. Then you got its resolution, and especially mid-range resolution, it's just, infallible. And then you got soundstage, and soundstage it does really, really well. You get a very immersive soundstage where you do get intimacy when the track calls for it, and you still get depth between instruments and between, let's say, the vocalist and the drummer. So it is cathedral-like, and cathedral-like, rather. And they have this cathedral technology, like I talked about at the beginning of the video. Very impressive, technically. Guys, this deserves a lot of praise. It's a very smooth and warm listen. Standout, technicalities. And honestly, I really enjoyed it with the iFi Griffon. It's a very new unit, as you can tell. I bought this, and I haven't taken the sticker off yet. And the Griffon is a fabulous product, especially with IMs. I really enjoy the Griffon with IMs. And yeah, I haven't tried a whole lot of headphones with this. And as you can see, it's almost running out of battery. But the Griffon was just so nice with this. Despite both being warm, the Griffon just gave this a sense of stage. And this very warm, enveloping sort of presentation where the vocals just stood out while it was resolving and resolute. The Sony W1ZM2 is my favorite DAP that I've talked about in several videos, and this does enhance the performance of these dynamic driver IMs a little more. They do tend to scale, and with the Sonys, I get a wider sound stage, a very, very impressive width of stage, and better punch and macrodynamics rather. Although I do think it does both macro and micro well. So both small changes of volume and large changes of volume are handled very well in the same track. So guys, This is not something that I think I need to recommend because it is already very hyped up. But I do recommend it if you want to, if you're curious. I do recommend it at $1,000 or $1,100, which is its price point. It is a fabulous IM, especially for seeker of warmth and tonal richness. That's it for me, guys. Sajid Ami signing out, and stay tuned for my next one. Bye-bye.